Okay, in this lesson we're going to talk about the difference between a div and a span. Let's get that first. And then we'll also want to talk about classes and IDs. So let's get this program up. Let's get the code here. So this is my background. I've set a style of div background is red. Okay. So again, all a div means is this certain section will have this property. In this case, background is red. I'm going to control cut this, and I'll just have the rest of the page have a div. Okay. Control V. Control S. Refresh. And now the bottom of my page will have all of this text here is a background color. Okay. So next one I want to talk about is well, that's not what I want. I would just want vary, for example, in this code to have a background color of something. So let's go ahead and do that. Span allows me to do that. It's an inline element, and it allows me to specify background, font size, font family, etc. Anything I want for simply an inline element. Inline element in this case is vary, but I could set a span for just two letters, V and E in this case. But let's go ahead and do that. I want span. For some reason, I want span to have a background of span. Let's do background. Make it green. And then we have that, green. Control S, background, spell it. Yep, spelled right. Control S, refresh. And then I've got background of vary. There may have been some questions. Hey, when you had that div, everything jumped up to the same line. Let's do that again here. Slash div. And then I'm going to drop that div here. And then Control S. Press Enter. Boom. Okay. So what happened here? In this case, the div is, remember, a div is a block element. So it took the entire normal text and set up a new line to it. So let's, I think, hold on. Yeah. Set a new line to it. Okay, Korea, what happened there? I did not end my div. Slash div. Div slash div. Control S. Refresh. And there you go. Okay, but the important point is that it started a new line. Why? Because it's a div. It'll set up as a block element. If I want to change that, I could have easily changed it from block to inline. Okay, next one is I want a format of, I don't know, let's pick something. Let's do, well, let's stick with background color. Okay. So I want a background color of green, but I don't want it to apply to span. I want it to apply to everything. I want to apply it to the I. I want to apply it to the H1. So if I am defining a class, now remember, classes are not unique. So you can use the same class on many elements. I can put an H1, and the other thing is I can have multiple classes on that same. Element can have class 1 and class 2. So let's go ahead, rather than say it, just go ahead and do it. How do I define a class? I simply do it in the style section, except I use a period here. Period. And then I'll do intro. And then define that class. So intro is going to have, I don't know, background of green. There you go. Good enough. Now what I need to do is simply apply that class to any HTML command I want. So in this case, it looks like I did an ID here as a demo before. Let me clear that up. I'm going to do class is equal to intro. Okay. Control S. Now if you've got, well, let's double check. Refresh. Refresh. There you go. Class is intro. Now again, I can do it as I want, non-continuously. If I wanted all the rest of the page to be green, well then I probably would have done a div. But in this case, I want, besides my background here being a div, I want the span to have a background of green. So I can simply do class equal to intro. Control S, let's double check. So I should now have class, okay, background is good, and nope. Joys of doing thing in code. Class is intro. That's sorry, my mistake. Can't type intro. Okay, let's Control S again. Refresh. Yep. Now the first page, my first web page, has got a green background, and then Very has a green background. Okay. And again, I can apply this to multiple HTML tags, define a class once, and apply it to any tag I so choose. Next thing I want to talk about then is ID. And how do we declare ID? An ID I can sort of probably get away with in HTML. I can use it. In theory, IDs are unique. So it's one element can only have one ID on a page. You may be able to get away with this in HTML where, hey, I have the same thing, I use it twice. The problem is when we get to JavaScript, get element by ID is going to be a problem. If I've got more than one ID, JavaScript's going to struggle with it. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about ID. I want to call it, I don't know, ABC. And that's going to have, let me see, let's do font size. We'll do 100 pixels. So this is going to be really 110 pixels. Good enough. Okay. So I want, in this case, I'm going to define an ID. It's going to have some properties to it. In this case, the font size is going to be big. So we can do that to, well, again, I should only be able to do this to one command. So let's do it over here to the I here. This is easy. So again, I'll do it here. ID is equal to ABC. Okay. Control S, refresh, Control V, and this is easy. It comes out huge with 110 pixels. Very has a class of a background color of green, which is a span. So span and H1 have a background color of green. So this is simply a simple example. Hopefully you got a clearer understanding. IDs, they're unique. Classes, they are not unique. Classes I can apply to any HTML command. Div generally involves a continuous section and is a block. Span is inline and only takes a portion of a section to use. Okay? So anyway, just to review on those four items, div and span, ID and classes. That's it for the lesson for today.